Have you ever been curious about how America came to be? Or maybe how powerful America has become over the years? America believed or felt obligated that they had to expand their country out west to the Pacific Ocean. This is known as a manifest destiny. America wasn't very big but took over a lot of territories including Texas and California. Was all of this justifiable? John O'Sullivan was an American columnist, or in other words, a journalist who made people believe that manifest destiny was their God-given right to be able to expand into new lands, which was a westward expansion. Throughout the 1800s, the U.S. started to search for new lands to be owned, but people today think it wasn't okay. Westward expansion all started with the Treaty of Paris in 1783, which let the United States have the privilege to move west. How did the Treaty of Paris help the U.S. to expand west? Well, the U.S. used to be ruled under the British, and when King George finally signed the treaty, it declared the 13 colonies to be independent states, and Britain was no longer a part of the U.S. The treaty also helped the boundaries of the United States to expand westward. Later on, the U.S. had begun the Louisiana Purchase, which was discovered by Meriwether Lewis and William Clark to discover new life and land. The U.S. had agreed to make the purchase of Louisiana as it made their territory much bigger and also gave them full control of the trade route. Florida fell into the U.S. hands in 1810 when they didn't want to be ruled under Spanish rule anymore and preferred to be a part of the U.S. They thought it would be a great idea and better for them. The Texas annexation was also a big territory that U.S. had claimed or conquered. This was a very important part in history because it declared a big war against the Mexicans, which were Tejanos, and the American settlers, the Texans, in the Alamo. As you probably already know, the Americans had conquered Texas and made it an independent state. Another territory the U.S. claimed was Oregon. Although they didn't exactly claim it all at first, in the Oregon Territory there had been British and American settling, but had been too many Americans outnumbering the country. This led to a negotiation with Britain and America in 1845. They had concluded that they wanted half of Oregon using the slogan 5440. Oregon became state of Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and part of Montana and Wyoming. Now part of Gadsden Purchase. Now part of the Gadsden Purchase became Arizona and New Mexico, since Mexico was poor and needed money. Decided to sell that small portion of land for $10 million. This Gadsden Purchase was originally made to secure territory for a railroad to connect to the west. My opinion on the U.S. expanding west is acceptable. The U.S. also achieved on taking over Native American lands, which were Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, Creek, and Seminole. The Americans tried taking their land for wealth. The U.S. thought the natives were uncivilized and simply thought the worst in them. Andrew Jackson helped remove them from their lands and also made treaties with them. Native Americans had suffered, and until this day, they blame the U.S. for taking their lands. My opinion on the U.S. expanding west is acceptable or justifiable in most part. It is acceptable because each territory they expanded into or now owned were for good reasons. They deserved almost every territory they expanded into. For example, Texas. Americans declared war with the Mexicans and won. It was fair because either one of them could have won. The Mexicans weren't strong enough or were simply not prepared. My main point is that America fought for Texas and conquered. They deserved it. The Gadsden Purchase was also justifiable because Mexico was the one who offered Arizona to the U.S. for $10 million. It is okay in my perspective. Now the Oregon Territory is also acceptable because the U.S. and Britain had negotiated and cleared things up. Florida was justifiable because they no longer wanted to be a part of Spanish rule and preferred to be a part of the U.S. So it was okay. On the other hand, I don't think it was justifiable for the U.S. to take over the Native American lands without negotiating or talking to them. They just forced them to leave their lands where they had already inhabited. They were very cruel to them and simply moved them further and further away from their lands, which was not okay.